And now to our main conversation. Every 15th of January is Armed Forces Remembrance Day, and it's to commemorate the servicemen of the Nigerian Armed Forces. It also honors veterans of the World War I and II, as well as the Nigerian Civil War. Here in Nigeria, at the nation's capital, we saw Vice President Kashim Shettima leading the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, members of the Federal Executive Council, National Assembly, service chiefs, diplomatic corps, to honor the nation's fallen and living heroes. The Vice President, represented President Bola Tinubu, who is in Abu Dhabi, attended the Sustainability Summit. First to lay the wreath is the Vice President himself, followed by the President of the Senate, Speaker, House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas, represented by the Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu, and Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun. Others include Minister of Defense Mohammed Badaru, his Federal Capital Territory counterpart, Nyesom Wike, as well as the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawalle, amongst others. Let's talk about the importance of today, marking Armed Forces Remembrance Day, and also what it means for the sacrifices of military personnel, both serving and those who have left. I'm joined by former Director of Public Relations, Nigerian Army, Brigadier General Sani Usman, and also joining us from here, Lagos, is Olatunbosun Abolarinwa, who is counter-terrorism expert. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the program this evening. Let's begin from Abuja, where the Brigadier General is standing by. Do you think there's a sense to which we have come to understand and really appreciate as a nation the role of the armed forces in not only protecting our sovereignty as a nation, but also upholding democratic rule in the past 25 years, considering what we've seen happen in West African countries during this period? Brigadier General, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, I was asking if you think that we have come to terms to appreciate precisely what the armed forces have done, not only in protecting our sovereignty as a nation, but in keeping our democratic rule alive for over 25 years, considering what we've seen play out in other neighboring West African countries during this period.
Well, thank you very much for having me on your program, and thank you for the encomiums of appreciating, the armed forces, especially today being the grand finale of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration for the year 2025. We really appreciate your kind words and everything and support. Beyond that, whether we have come to terms in respect of the roles the armed forces have been performing, apart from the defense of the territorial integrity, but also upholding the democratic tenets, I think the onus is on the Nigerian society. But so far, so good, in the sense that people were pessimistic in those days, but now this is almost more than 25 years, so to speak, of uninterrupted democratic tenets, and successive service chiefs, right from the Chief of Defense Staff and the various service chiefs, they have reiterated their loyalty and determination to defend and sustain democratic governance in this country. That's why the distractions, remember, we have had instances of distractions, people because of, the passive hardship and all the rest, calling on military and all the rest. The military remain resolute and determined to ensure that Nigeria remain a democratic country. So I think it is no question of coming to terms, but I think we have to give credit and kudos. And remember, just recently, the Chief of Defense Staff, when he went to Qatar some time ago, he reiterated that. And the thing is that whoever is thinking that the military having a double thought about democracy, I think that person needs his head examined. We are so that the military is so determined to ensure that Nigeria remain a democratic society. So I think it's no question of commending the military for remaining resolute and determined to ensure that Nigeria remain a democratic society. And beyond that, the sacrifices they have been making over the years. Look at the security challenges, and you have just mentioned Damboa and some other places. And any time we look back, we look at the sacrifices, especially those of us that were privileged to serve in the armed forces. You look back, you look at the friends that you have lost, the colleagues you have lost, and the families they left behind. But that will not make you to despair. Rather, you feel happy and proud that
yes,
actually their death or the sacrifices will not be in vain. So this is it. So it's a question of commending the military for such, determination.
indeed. Absolutely. Let me bring Mr. Bolariwa into this conversation. Over the years, we have spoken about military funding, which continues to take the largest chunk of our yearly spending. But on a day like this, we still talk about inadequate funding, insufficient equipment, welfare concerns in the military. I'm wondering how you marry these two realities. What do you think are the underlying factors contributing to this disconnect, and how can we ensure military funding is better optimized to address what really the genuine needs are for the armed forces?
To answer that question without first appreciating the heroes, both fallen and living, who have been keeping our territorial integrity safe. The military has never been so stretched and challenged like what we have seen in the last 10 years. A lot of lives have been lost. A lot of their children have been made fatherless because they are serving their country. And I want to really appreciate them and pray that God will not make their sacrifices go in vain. Talking about funding and equipment for the military is something that we cannot overemphasize. In some other climes, because nobody knows the level of security threat that is coming to their nation, the security hemisphere or the security community have what we refer to our nickname blank check. You see, we cannot put a cost on what the military needs when everything is okay. Not to talk of when almost 4 out of the 6 regions in Nigeria are facing one security challenges or the other, and the military are being stretched. So the government needs to do more for the military, and they can never do enough. I must say that to you, they must be kept safe. One of the aspects of the funding the military or providing for the military that I really want to mention as well is that I read recently the plan of the current federal government, to upgrade the living standard and the packages for senior military officers. I read that note and it was fantastic. But I also want to plead on behalf of all the low cadre and junior ranking officers that the government should please take a look at their sites too. They are the foot soldiers. They are the one that actually goes there. I live almost opposite the military cemetery. And one of the cries that wakes me up or that keeps me to send me to sleep every day is when military men are being buried. So I sleep and wake up with this reality every day, that some people are paying the ultimate price for this. For those
Absolutely.
who are alive and are still working, government should please do more to make sure that they are well funded and they are well equipped to carry out these jobs.
And that's a big issue. I like that you brought that up. Brigadier General, many ex-service members still find themselves grappling with limited opportunities after serving the motherland when it comes to what is life after the military. How do they get reintegrated back into society? Some of them have lost limbs and arms. How well are we doing right now as we speak?
I think it's, even though one would like to commend the effort because there is so much improvement as compared to things in the past, but I think it's it's work in progress. Every day, innovative ways are being created to enhance the well-being of, the veterans. And just like you rightly mentioned, that is one of them. But that notwithstanding, things are supposed to permeate down the ladder so that everybody, right from the top to bottom, enjoy these privileges, having served the country so diligently. But most importantly, again, it is not just even those who are lucky to be alive, but the families that are left behind. we need to improve, the welfare packages. It is not supposed to be one-off, but it's something that should be sustained, because it is not easy. Somebody who is a breadwinner, you wake up, he is or she is no more, and the wives or the children are left to cater for themselves. So these are the kind of thing, institutionalizing some of the welfare schemes, so that it will enhance the well-being of not just the veterans themselves, but for the family. But sincerely speaking, we need to commend the government, for continuous improvement in the welfare of the veterans and their families. But like everything else, I think a lot needs to be done to enhance it or to reach that standard. But if we are even going to talk about it, the issue is that while in service, the preparation, to exit should also be improved, even though there are rehabilitation programs and all the rest, so that people will understand, that of course there is life after service. So how do you integrate yourself into the society and all the rest of the thing? I think it's basically, apart from the material aspect of it, it's also the issue of psychologically preparing the people. You are used to a particular way of life. And I can give you an example. There was a time a very senior military officer sometime asked me, he said, look, Usman, one day I had a TV engagement, I just decided to go and say hello to him. He said, Usman, have you ever one day, woke up and felt like wearing uniform? And I said, look, sir, do you know what? He said, you want the truth? I said, yeah. He said, yes. I said, look, if not that you have just mentioned it, sincerely speaking, I never thought of it. But of course, you can see, the mindset. But look at the two of us, So basically, for you to have spent 35 years, doing a particular thing, and the military is such a wonderful thing. The most productive aspect of your life, is in the military, so regimented, so disciplined, and one day you just wake up, you are there in the open and subjected to the vulnerabilities, of the realities of the society. So beyond the material thing, psychologically, we ought to prepare, the servicemen before they exit, beyond what we are doing that now. And of course, the material aspect of it is equally very important.
Despite all of the sacrifices that the men and women have made, Mr. Bolarinwa, the military still battles the challenge of public perception. I'm wondering what you think the problem is from the civilian's point of view. How can we fix that military-civic relationship going forward?
All right, then I think we will be narrowing it too much if we limit it to military and civic relationship. We should also expand it to military, to paramilitary and sister agency relationship, which has suffered a lot of blow recently. And let me just put it in a straight terms. I think a lot needs to be done to realign the serving military bodies with the members of the public, and also a lot needs to be done to demilitarize the people, the officers that are leaving the military, to align them to start living a civil life. There's going to be a lot of clash in that area where some of them forgot that they have put on the uniform, and we're beginning to see a lot of problem between them and the civil society. We still have police officers and the military fighting on the road. We still have killings going on among them when there is no war. We want to appeal to the federal government to ensure that this sister agency collaboration, coexistence is it's not becoming an embarrassment to the nation. There are programs that could be run to effect that, and I pray to the federal government to look more into that, and also to appeal to the military top brass to please look into that and call their officers to order, put measures in place to ensure that your officers are being civil. It makes lives more better for everybody, and it makes you more fantastic, if I put it that way.
Absolutely. Brigadier General, I wanted to weigh in on this because some have said perhaps it's high time we reduce to the barest minimum the intervention of the Nigerian military in domestic affairs, since perhaps they're not necessarily trained to relate with civilians. Do you agree with that school of thought?
Yeah, quite right. What you said is quite true, and of course I quite agree with you in the sense that it is a constant interface that brought about these issues that we're talking about. But I think the most important thing is to enhance our conflict resolution mechanism, because some of these issues that brought about the deployment of the military could have been dealt with at local level, so that it minimize, the appearance of the military on the street, so that they are, to minimize also the occasions for, interaction to the extent that we have the conflicts that we always have on a daily basis. But the good thing is that he talked about, the hierarchy of the military to improve. Yes, effort is being done. And if you look at it at a higher level, you hardly have such misunderstanding, particularly among the security agencies or the civil, the military, the security agencies and the military. So I think it's just a matter of training continuously. Now that beyond the armed forces, the officers cadre, even the warrant officers of the security, the military and the paramilitary are now being joined together in a training session, so that they will understand their obligation to the Nigerian society. But most importantly, it takes two to a tango. People should understand, appreciate the fact that military service is a unique, noble endeavor on behalf of the Nigerian society. So the denigration of the military, I think, is not in the best interest of the citizenry, neither is it in the best interest of the country. There were instances, some of us that were privileged to travel out of this country, by the time you mentioned that you're a military officer, the kind of respect you receive, honestly, is unprecedented. And we want to see the replication of that. But of course, to whom much is given, much is expected, to the extent that, of course, respect is reciprocal. We have some bad eggs, actually, that go out of their way. But we should understand also that extant mechanism, particularly disciplinary measures that deal with those isolated cases. So I'm not saying that people should, overlook these misdemeanors, but the most important thing is to understand and give the hierarchy a chance so that they can deal with these issues decisively.
I'm wondering if you think, Brigadier General, that there's a balance, while we're working all of that out, can we achieve a balance between national security and the protection of human rights and civil liberties? Because there appears to be a very thin line between both as we speak.
The good thing, in fact, today, it's just barely 7 days ago, I was at the training and doctrine command of the Nigerian Army, where I delivered paper in respect of media operation, international humanitarian law, and internal security operations in Nigeria. So we dissect these issues and the kind of, impediment that the military go through in dealing with internal security challenges in the country. So there is also a need to have a balance in which not only we protect human rights during this military operation, but we also promote them. And basically, the rules of engagement, the international humanitarian laws, and laws of armed conflicts, they are not, so to speak, an impediment, but something to protect the military also. But people should understand, actually, the military or the security agencies in general are operating in a very delicate situation. Take, for instance, the counter-terrorism effort, and of course, the dealing with security challenges like banditry and kidnapping, in the sense that bulk of these people that perpetrate these crimes live within the society. So how do you deal with them to avoid collateral damage and so on and so on, or infringing of human rights for people, especially the innocent ones? So these are so what is there is a question of constructive engagement among the components of Nigerian society to ensure that the military are doing things professionally and supporting them with credible and timely information, and understanding too that these are the circumstances they operate. And of course, the military always has a point of duty to protect, innocent citizens of this country in the course of their operations.
Mr. Bolariwa, we're running out of time now, but if you look around, role models are often drawn from pop culture in Nigeria of today, when we have the armed forces that should be known for discipline, values like selflessness, integrity, and what have you. What do you think is responsible for that disconnect? How can we also leverage on Armed Forces Remembrance Day, for instance, to inspire patriotism, and place military where it should be in the real sense of it?
Thank you very much for that. The first response to that was that what we are doing at the moment is appreciating the military and letting them know that they've done a very, very good job and the country really loves them. And we have no choice than to love them. My colleague in the studio, my friend in the studio just mentioned that there are specific bad eggs in isolated cases. We really hope that the federal government and the Ministry of Defense and the Nigerian Army, Nigerian Navy, Nigerian Air Force are not using esprit de corps when they are officers serving or retired air in the society. So there is need for strategic engagement and realignment between them and the general public. It all makes them look good at the end of the day, and improving that aspect of their activities cannot be overemphasized.
Agree with you. Gentlemen, we have to go now. Brigadier General, if I can have your thoughts in a minute. We've seen some level of ample appreciation shown by this president. You remember the Okwama incident where he chose to honor the soldiers even in their death, how he also gave them huge grand gestures to their surviving families, including those unborn. How do you think we can institutionalize this in such a way that systemically, you know, these soldiers get their flowers and their honor when they are done?
I think he has set a precedent beyond the Okwama. I was there when late Chief of Army Staff was Brigadier General Lagbaja, and we are moved beyond what words could say with the president's gesture. And I think this needs to be improved upon and sustained so that the armed forces and the veterans, you know, the sacrifices of our fallen heroes will not be in vain. And of course, the veterans will be given greater sense of belonging. And I think beyond what the government is doing, the Nigerian society also need to give a helping hand. And we give kudos to some of the corporations, corporate organizations, you know, for subsidizing things and all the rest of this, like transport, air transport, fare, and so on.
Absolutely.